If I reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to Perfect Mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm JClay, rapper, the spiritual teacher, with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode.
Perfect.
What up? What up? Welcome to Perfect Mode. And first off, let me start by telling y'all that we love y'all. We're grateful for the opportunity to be anywhere, sharing our thoughts, hopefully in helping you realize that you are perfect. And the only reason, and I mean the only reason you would think that you're not perfect is if you look into this person next to you or that person next to them and saying, I'm not them. But guess what? You are you, and that's all you need. And I promise you, by the end of this, you'll be telling us and teaching us how we're perfect as well. Of course, it's yours truly, Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. I have my boy, JClay, spiritual rapper and teacher. And then we got a special guest for you today. And our special guest is a certified QHHT past life regression hypnotist. And I promise this content creation that she brings is beyond any other. What's up? I got my girl Loretta. What up, Loretta? What up, Jay? How y'all doing today?
We're good. Go ahead, Loretta.
Hi, I'm doing good. I'm doing wonderful. It's an honor. I am on the Perfect Mode podcast, y'all. It's an honor being here. So I'm very excited about today.
Yeah, I gotta say what up to everybody in perfect land, in perfect world, on the perfect day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Happy Mother's Day to you as well, Loretta. And yeah, it's a great day. It's a great day to talk about spiritual stuff.
Yes.
And to JClay's point, validating spiritual visions, man. Like, where was y'all at? Where was we at? Was we even here? Where was we at when y'all came up with this? What up, Charlie?
Yeah, so me and Loretta, we were just talking about like what because we really wanted her on the show. Like for y'all that don't know, Loretta has a YouTube channel called Loretta Sharingroup, and on Loretta Sharingroup, she shares things about like NDEs, like people speaking about NDEs, and what NDEs are near-death experiences and all the spiritual things that they have and that they experience while in that near-death state. And a lot of these stories have similarities to it. A lot of them are different. It touches on a lot of spiritual things that people do and say, and even that to an extent is spiritual visions. But I want Loretta to kind of speak on that a little bit more too, because this is something that needs to be known. But yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Yes, I have conversations with different people who have had spiritual experiences, and we all have had them, y'all. We have all had different spiritual experiences. And so spiritual vision was something that I thought would be nice to talk about specifically on Mother's Day, talk about validating spiritual vision that our children may have and validating the spiritual visions that we have. Even if it's like seeing a sparkle in the corner of your eye, and then you look, and by the time you look, it's gone. And it's like, did I? Yeah, you saw it. Because every time we validate it, we're letting the universe know I'm open to it. I believe it, and it'll happen more and more. So yeah, I thought this was a great topic, Jay, to talk about today.
Yeah, and what's funny too, or I'll say this real quick. It was funny too on Mother's Day. because I'm a spiritual rapper. I do all this stuff in the spiritual realm, and with sharing these stories, I remember my mom had said something recently, like, "Yeah, I've had my encounters with spirits." Like, what? I never heard this. What you didn't tell me any of this growing up. Maybe I would have been scared back then. Who knows? But it's just funny that I'm finding out more and more people have had experiences, but they never really shared about it or talked about it because they didn't want to be called crazy, or they didn't want to add fear to the collective, or just so many other reasons. But go ahead, Troy.
So I'm gonna throw this out there, and then I'm gonna let Loretta just kind of go in. But you know, I'm grateful for the conversation as well, because I did grow up in a household, and I'm gonna talk to y'all the way that we talked about it in my house. It wasn't spiritual visions, it wasn't spirits, it was ghosts. So you know, in my crib, you know, if you grew up, if you come around my grandmother, you come around my mom, they got plenty of ghost stories of things that they've witnessed themselves in our house or around our area, or just, you know, just different places. And that's kind of the tone at which that it's been talked about, because nobody looks at it from a spiritual, even though it's it's a spiritual thing. That's the way that I grew up in it. And because of that, I know that a number of people that have grown up with me, especially the younger generation, we have our own thought process on, you know, what we may have witnessed, what it means. But not only that, just we think that we see, which, you know, I like when you said, you know, you see the little sparkles in your eye. But yeah, definitely grateful for you to be here. Can't wait to hear everything that you got to say about it. And one other thing, there's a guy that his name is Alan Stevenson, and I interviewed him on my radio show one time, and he actually has a NDE page, and you know, he went into talking about, you know, what he saw when he was, you know, out. And so, you know, I'm definitely want to hear about some of that as well. But shouts out again, appreciate you being here today.
Yes, I'm loving it. I'm excited. So yeah, okay. So real quick, y'all, I wanted to share this. I have a latest guest. I haven't posted up his video yet. So I had a gentleman by the name of Eric Taylor. He's an astrologer. So he ended up in a 40-day coma, y'all, like long-term coma. But he was having all these spiritual experiences. He was jumping timelines. He was just having these dynamic experiences while he was in a coma. And so he was given the option of he has 3 boys. He was given the option of seeing one of the boys 5 years in the future, or being able to visit his house, right? And this was when he was in this coma. Don't ask me how, don't ask me who gave him the choice. So he chose to go to his home. And so he astro traveled, y'all, to his house and laid back on the couch. And his son saw him. His son saw his spirit. And his son ran to his mom and said, "Mom, I see Dad on the couch. He's going to be okay. Dad's going to be okay." And she looked at him and she was like, "Okay, baby. Okay. Like, no matter how crazy that sounded, she received that blessing from him. And that's what I wanted to talk about, is validating that spiritual vision that our kids have. And when he came out of the coma, his wife asked him, did you come to the house? And he was like, yeah. He had something on his like, yeah, I came to the house, because he was convinced she was cheating on him and everything. Y'all, it is hilarious.
He said he was about to go see it, huh?
Okay, exactly. Let me catch you in the act.
Yeah.
But
I got a question for you real quick before you go on. For the listeners that might not know what astral projection is and what that means, and you know how you even get to that, can you kind of talk to that a little bit more?
I mean, all I know is we are multidimensional beings, right? So we have these incredible experiences, y'all, especially during our dream time. We are very active during our dream time, but apparently, yes, we can go into a meditation. We can do this while we're dreaming, where we can go into other dimensions and other places spiritually, energetically. And that's what happened. I've never done it consciously, so I wouldn't know. But yeah, he was able to do that. And he saw her interacting with her business partner. He saw his son and was shocked that the son saw him, and they kind of looked at each other. It was incredible. But I just wanted to talk about, our kids have not been on the planet as long as we have, right? They've not been exposed to the conditioning programs as long as we have. And so they have spiritual vision. And we do too, but we have to acknowledge it and exercise that muscle, right? So, there's the real issue that I really wanted to bring forward is I have these guests on all the time, y'all, and many, many times, if I ask them, how was your childhood? They'll say, I was able to tell when somebody was about to transition, or I had a grandmother who had passed away years ago and I saw them and interacted with them, or I saw my angel. And many times they'll say, when I went to tell my parents, they said, stop saying that. You sound crazy. Don't talk about that. So they're being told that it's a secret or there's something wrong with it. And so what happens is they push those abilities away from them. And so on my platform, I always like to share and encourage parents to validate what your children see and experience spiritually. Validate it. Just because it may not be our experience, it doesn't mean that that they don't have these experiences. It's important to do that for them and for ourselves. I mean, I've done it myself. I'm gonna let y'all talk, but I've done it myself where my daughter has come to me and I've said, "Oh, baby, you were just asleep." And I was like, "Oh my God, I did it. I did what I tell people not to do." What y'all got to say?
Yeah, oh, go ahead, Troy.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Jay. You got it.
Well, no, it's just interesting, all the things, like we like to explain things away. And when we explain things away, it kind of closes the door to a lot of things. Like, oh, that's probably just this, or that's just that. And then you don't wonder anymore. And part of that wonder is finding out and exploring. And we become a society almost where we put everything in categories. We explain everything to a T. That's just it. That's the end of it. So like there are people who don't enjoy life. We have all these things around us, but they don't enjoy it, only for the sole reason because they explained away everything in their life into a neat little box and just kept it there. When the truth is, everybody's experience is different. Like even the NDEs, like we said, like everyone is different and unique. So it's cool that we're talking about this, but we can also bridge about just generality and how we can have more fun in life as well.
Yeah.
So I'll say this about it all. So number one, it's my mind went 1,000 different places. I can't even lie while you were talking, but it was all in engaging in what you were saying. So number one, I would tell you that I know the astral projection thing to be true, at least in my own world, right? And the only reason why I say that, because there are times for myself. Now, I may not have recognized it at that. And then I also don't know how far I could have gone if I don't have a built up resistance, which is the stuff that you're talking about, that through time, people telling us something is real or something is make you look crazy or to make you feel a certain way. So there's a built up resistance within me that does not allow me to experience these things in a way that I feel like I should experience them. But there have been plenty times where I have been sitting back and maybe there was a sense of depression. I don't know. Or maybe there was a sense of not being connected to the people around me, or feeling lonely, or feeling overwhelmed in circumstances where I've been sitting down and I can literally see myself. And what I mean by see myself, it's a weird thing. So I would have never thought of it as astral projection. I just thought maybe I was just out of my mind. But in those moments when I saw myself, I would look at myself and question the mood, or question how I feel, or question what I'm doing. And then it incites me to get back into my body and go. Now, again, it's a weird feeling, because the times when I've been sitting there, I know that I'm sitting there, but I feel removed from myself. Now, you would think that, oh, well, if you've mastered being able to remove yourself, which I haven't mastered it, why don't you just go to somebody's house like guy, right? But again, when I say the built-up resistance that we have from people telling you, even somebody telling me like you cannot see yourself, it's backwards thinking in itself. And then, my last little piece to this is just to touch on the resistance that I'm saying I have, where it came from, and how it's built up over time, and then how you continue to feed that over and over again. Just like you said, there have been things that I have literally said to my kids, and in that moment, I think to myself, why did I say that? Not saying that it was wrong, but I know that I'm building a resistance for something that they might not need a resistance to going forward, right? And then again, fast forwarding to adulthood, revisiting those things over and over again with them to further nail the hammer down and saying, well, I know it might not be like this, that sureness in, your responses to people. So I definitely 100% wholeheartedly agree with everything that you're saying. And Jay, I know you probably might have something to say, but if not, Loretta, you can go ahead and come back in and further go for it.
Yeah, I got a question for Loretta, if you don't mind sharing, because I kind of know a bit of your story. Like, do you mind sharing how you got into this? Like, you got into started interviewing the NDEers and why?
Ooh, y'all ready for that? Y'all ready? You sure you ready for me to do it?
I'm ready, because I just know how helpful your story can be to so many people.
So my entry into the spiritual space, y'all, began similar to a lot of people, is through pain. And Jay, don't talk about pain ain't the same. There's not a certain thing as pain. The illusion of pain, the experience of mental pain, right? So I was just in a tumultuous custody battle with my ex-husband, and just fell into a depression, financial, attorney's fees. I was isolated, family was away from me, and I just became severely depressed, especially once I realized that all he wanted to do was fight. He didn't want to win. I could deal with him wanting to win. I could deal with that. But his intention, his goal was the fight, right? That was the way he could do the financial abuse, mental anguish, keep the family in crisis. And so, y'all, I'm going to talk about stuff, trigger alert for everyone. I wanted to die. I just remember telling God, this isn't fun anymore. I don't want to be here. I'm not having fun. This is not fun anymore. And so as I began to entertain those thoughts, and that's what it starts with. That's a whole other conversation, is our thoughts. And we can follow the thoughts or we can challenge them, which I'll encourage everyone to do. If you have a thought and it does not serve you, don't just follow it, but it starts with that thought, like you were talking about, Troy, like over time, that build up. And I really began to formulate a plan, okay, I'll do it when the kids are with dad, because he keeps saying I'm no good for them. I started to believe that. And so I don't know how it started. I don't know if I just went on YouTube and said, what happens when you die? Because religion at that point, though I had grown up in the church, it did nothing for me. I didn't want to hear nothing about no Bible. All right. It just, it did nothing for me at that point. When you're at a place where the desire to live is no longer there, you need something substantive. And I'm not saying that religion doesn't do that, but for me, it just didn't have what I was looking for. And so I started getting these videos of near-death experiences. And this was before the podcasters like myself would highlight near-death experiencers. You had to search for each person. If they had a YouTube, if they had a story, you had to search them out. But I became obsessed with these stories. And at that point, I was not yet in the vibration of joy. I didn't feel joy, you know, but the stories were the experiences were doing something for me. They were doing something for me. And it was the only thing, y'all, that I did that I wanted to do. Right? You go, you wake up, you get dressed for work, you take the kids to school, you know, but it was the only thing that I did that I was drawn to do until I saw a lady who talked about she had uh, overdosed on pills on purpose and was revived. And she very matter of factly said, we reincarnate here over and over again to have different experiences, and we assign different roles with our soul family to have different experiences. And when I heard that, it was like, that was what I was looking for. I'm dramatic, y'all. But that was my response. That was what I was looking for. I felt like I had been in a desert and I had finally found some ice cold water, y'all. And so that happened. I began to consume material. It was almost like being freshly born, where it's like, oh my goodness, I am an eternal being. I probably asked this man to do this. You know, let me investigate who I am then. What does that mean? Who are we? Why are we here? Why are we engaging in this? And so, of course, I studied A Course in Miracles, Conversations with God, all kinds of books that educated me on who we are. And that was it, y'all. After that, I started teaching the course on my YouTube, and then started having conversations with near-death experiencers. So I always say I'm still in the awakening process. Like, I'm still waking up, you know, every conversation, every video I have with a near-death experiencer or a spiritual experiencer, I'm in the process of waking up. But thank you for asking, Troy, and allowing me to share my experience.
So I'm gonna tell you off the top, I have. Okay, so you know what? Let me. Okay, I was gonna read what he says. Let's read what Charlie says. So shouts out, Charlie.
Hey,
we appreciate
Charlie.
you joining us.
That's
And
my
you know,
buddy.
giving us a little bit of something. He said, I had various spiritual experiences in childhood and up to my 30s, including being out of my body age 9 or 10 after hitting my head off the road on a bicycle accident. I dismissed them until I got meningitis in 2018. That gave me a brain injury, which took 2 years to recover. However, my consciousness was fine, and without interference from my brain, I remembered and self-validated my spiritual experiences. And I think that's pretty cool. Even recognizing it. Now, this is what I say to you, Loretta. All right, so I know this is about validating spiritual visions, and that's what pretty much what Charlie just touched on. Once he was able to be in I don't want to call it a situation, but be in a state of being, he was able to sit back and revisit things and then validate them in a way that made sense, right? Mm-hmm. But here's the deal. This conversation is beyond validating spiritual visions. I'm just going to tell you off the top. Just you telling your story just took me beyond. So I guess the first thing that I want to kind of touch on is, in the beginning, you said you had to find something that was substantive to you. And at that time, the Bible was not that thing. And I know it's funny enough that there's a sentiment that this world kind of holds that, and again, I get it. I don't want to say that it's wrong, because what's right for you is right for you. But it's like, when this is going on, go to the Bible. Go to the Bible. This is going to solve your problems. Mm-hmm. And you know what I thought about? So I'm like you in a sense, right? I didn't have the same experience, but there were things that I've gone through in my life that the Bible was not substantive enough for me. And the reason why that ended up happening was because if you have something your entire life that everybody tells you is important, but you also see that they don't follow the rules and the laws of it, there's an internal thing that's going on in you that says, well, how important could it be? Right. Again, that's what kind of takes the sauce off of it for you. So you want me to find something that's interesting to me, that somebody's made interesting to me. You want me to find something to lean on that everybody says that you should lean on, but don't lean on themselves. This is not going to work right now. This is just not going to work right now. And I love the fact, and the reason why I point that out is because I want everybody to understand that you have to find something that's substantive to you, something that sparks your interest, something that holds your heart. Now, you know, I don't like to, I guess, promote the fact that the thing that caught your mind, which again, this is your story, but again, the thing that caught you was a byproduct of where you were, meaning like, I don't want to be here anymore. Let me seek out more death. Right. But in it, there was purpose that was found because you were not afraid. And I think that that's the beautiful part of it all. So, you know, I love the fact of finding something substantive and not allowing people to point to you what you should feel is substantive. Because what'll happen is people will point to things that don't mean anything, and now the end result is completely different. You have to be able to look within yourself and say, you know, though this is something that everybody might shun, everybody might look upon and say, why are you looking at that, especially while you're going through what you're going through, and allow yourself to be open to find that seed that you need to realize, well, you know what? Maybe this was my plan. Maybe I was supposed to go this way. Maybe I was supposed to see it like this. And now I have that testimony and that story to tell to get everybody else. But go ahead, Jay. That's just my thoughts on it. I told you it's a lot.
Yeah, I got a lot too, but I'm limited to one thing because it kind of also goes off of the spiritual topic, and I want to get back to that. But wait, actually, it's part of it. Loretta, you brought up that sometimes we've assigned roles, and that's something that you learned through the NDE experience. Like we assign roles to certain people and ourselves, and what's cool about that is if we allow ourselves to step outside the moment and ask why, like, okay, why does this keep happening? Like you mentioned with your ex, why does he want to keep fighting? Like he doesn't even want to win. Like here, you won this argument. He doesn't even want that. And he wants to keep like why? What's the purpose of it? And maybe in that moment you might not have found the purpose, but I feel like just from your state of joy, you found a purpose in that too. Like, oh, this was meant to be. And I'll touch on some of the interviews I've seen of NDEs where like people might say in one life they are that person that causes the conflict, and then the other one they're the person who is receiving the effects of that conflict. And that when you think about it, that's the only real way to experience what a thing is. You know, like even how I call it the rebellion period in a sense. Like we learn something. We learn from the Bible. We all kind of came up from like a Bible basis. But then in order to know if this is really true, you have to say, man, I'm not trying to hear all that. Forget that. I'm gonna go off on my own and learn some things. And then you can actually make a more informed decision because you tried it with it, you tried it without it, and you can come to your own sense of truth. And I just think that that's just all so cool.
Yeah.
And just kind of piggyback on Jay, I always just say, let the truth, like you see it all day. We lay examples all day just in our natural behavior, right? And so what I mean by that is that, you know, y'all are talking about, both of y'all are talking about how we assign our role, or we dictate where we're going. And the craziest part about it, it's hard for people to believe that before I got here, I decided what I want to do. But everything in your entire makeup, not only that, everything that you read, not only that, every direction that you've been given is about story. It just shows you the habit of a being. The habit of a being is to create a pathway. Like we literally, when we wake up in the morning, the first thing that we do is thinking about what we're going to do. Like there's never a time where we don't plan, ever. And so, you know, it's just, if you just look at the nature of it, you know, you can see how we cannot be apart from our nature. But Loretta, I want to bring you back in, you know, and give us a little bit more tea.
Yeah, you know what? And that goes into more of about spiritual vision. I was thinking about it, and I know Charlie is on the chat with us. Shout out to Charlie Bannon. I just interviewed him. His story is very similar to mine. But he was telling me that he has a friend who was involved in a horrible divorce. And because of that, she will not allow herself to be loved, right? So when people show up for her, she doesn't see it. So spiritual vision isn't just isolated to what we see in our natural eyes. It's also our experience, our perception. And so he had to break it down for her and say, like, so-and-so did this to you. So-and-so did this for you. They gave this to you. They love you. You are loved. You are unconditionally loved. And she totally didn't see it. So it impacted her vision to the point where she was not able to have spiritual vision. And that's what happened with me, y'all, is when I was able to wake up to who we are and open up to the concept that, yeah, we plan this. I plan. There's a book that I want to put out there, Your Soul's Plan, by a gentleman by the name of Robert Schwartz, that talks about this kind of pre-birth planning. And everybody is not going to adopt this kind of thing, but whether it was true or not, it freed me. Why? Because we are not victims of the world we see, right? That's a lesson in A Course in Miracles. It validated for me, this is not happening to you. You are happening to life. You are the orchestrator of this whole play. And once you get to that point, then you're able to step into your personal power and say, you know what, if I created this hell, because hell isn't reserved for when we die. I personally don't believe in a hell unless we send ourselves to hell, but we're very much able to experience hell here, right? We can miscreate that. And so I'm like, if I was able to create this chaos and this hell that has stolen my peace, then I can simply recreate. I can create something different through my beliefs, my thoughts, my speech, and my actions, right? And I always say that it starts with the belief that we are fractals of God. We are not powerless. So I'm gonna let y'all talk now because I could go on a tangent.
What you got, Jay? You got something?
I was just gonna say I love all of that. Like, yeah, I am a true believer that we are all fractals of God, and because of that, we are all powerful. Like we have so much control over things that we don't realize, and sometimes those spiritual visions, like you said, it's a way to remind us of who we are, of what we're capable of, but it also snaps us back into real reality, because sometimes we get caught up in our physical stuff, like I got to do this, like you said, Joey, I got this to do, I got this long list of stuff, and then you might see 777, like, oh wait, what does that mean? It brought you back into the moment instead of being, far ahead into the future or rethinking about the past. And the moment is where the magic happens.
So, just kind of piggyback on both of y'all and specific you, Loretta, when you talk about, it's one of my biggest talks in my house or just in the world that I live in is it's your world. I tell everybody that, like, it is literally your world. And so the sentiment that I try to pass on to my kids, and I also, just kind of reinforce it myself, is the fact that you want to talk about power. And I know a lot of times people look at manipulating people as a bad thing. Now, I think that people can use their power in a way that's not necessarily helpful to all people in an instant. Overall, it's always helpful to number one. But in an instant, it might not feel that way. But I am definitely a believer in, being a fractal, but also being a manipulator of my world. And so I always try to tell my kids that, like, you have an opportunity, regardless of what the world looks like, to change the dynamic of it in any moment. And so just kind of give an example, if you have somebody that's ridiculously in your mind cantankerous and belligerent and, want to be crazy, do something that only you would do to that person and see how you can change the dynamic of it. And that just goes to show you the flow of energy that we have, that you can do it. Even on this, in this conversation, there are key words or elements that any one of us can say that can spark something in the other two. And it just goes to show you just the amount of power that you have, but not recognizing it and seeing it that way is, what's key. Is the reason why we don't recognize our power or are able to express our spiritual visions in the way that we feel, because we don't feel like we even have the power to do that. Go ahead.
Real quick, to both of y'all, have y'all had any significant visions that was a spiritual vision, and like what was the circumstances surrounding that?
Loretta,
I want to hear more about you, Troy, about these astral experiences. I need you to, I would like to encourage you to have more of that.
Well, and again, so I will talk about that for a second. Now, before I know about astral projection and traveling planes and all of this, but even getting still, because of my own mental reservations, right? And I know that's what it is. The times I'm going to pull up something so that way I can kind of show y'all exactly what it was. So just imagine this is me, right? And I'm sitting down. Whenever I do it, I only go this far.
Wow.
And I can literally see myself. Now, the craziest part about it is that I can recognize it. Like I literally can say, what am I doing? Why do I feel like I'm not connected to my body? And all the while trying to figure out how to get back to my body, but afraid to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
And normally, the times when I'm there is when I'm in a deep state of thinking, which again, it makes sense. But there is normally some type of adversary or opposition that's in front of me. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a person. It could just be a thought of a hurdle that I have to overcome. And just as an example, if I was sitting here at the house by myself thinking about, okay, we're about to go on perfect mode, I can sit back and I can think about it. But then what'll happen is I'll start thinking about all the shortcomings. And then I'll say, you know what? I don't know how to come over this. And then some kind of trigger happens and I just remove myself, and I would literally look at myself and like, what are you going to do now? And again, I wish I could control it. I've never been able to, but it happens to me on I don't say often, but on a frequent basis based on what I got going on in my life. Go ahead, Jay. You look like you got something to say.
No, real quick. I just want to interject. I think it's cool that you picked up, like, it looks like a remote controller, just to symbolize yourself. So I feel like that's one of those spiritual visions you might not even realize, but you are in control. Like, I just thought.
Ooh,
yeah, no.
That was an awesome connection. Go ahead.
No, I love it. But again, it's just one of those things where you can minimize the power. If we have not been having this conversation, I could recall all the times that's happened to me, but not give it the true power that it truly is, right? Oh, it's just me looking at myself, trying to figure out what I got going on. And that's when we talk about validating spiritual visions, being able to understand what's really going on with you. And I, in my own mind, have thought, this is something that everybody does. I always feel like everybody's sitting outside of themselves. I've even heard people say, man, I just got outside of myself for a moment. I don't know why I thought that, which is, again, you minimize things because you feel like it's normal or it doesn't mean anything. And so, I just, I encourage everybody to recognize it, because I also think that it could be happening, you not see it. And all the reason is because I remember the times where it happened, and it wasn't until afterwards that I recognized. Go ahead, Loretta.
I just wanted to say that's awesome. Not everybody does that. And to start to practice reshaping how you experience it, right? We are attuned to fear subconsciously, whether we realize it or not. I've had experiences where, like, I was laying in the bed, half sleep, and I've told Jay about this. I feel an energy flying around me, but I was stuck. I couldn't talk. I couldn't move. And so I was like, you know what? I could think. And so here I go. Here I start. I'm God too. I'm God too. I don't know who you are, but I'm God too. I'm telling that I'm in my mind because I know it could, whatever it was, it could hear my thoughts. And it just, floated left, right, and left. But when I was able to come up and move in that, and I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? That could have been one of my angels. But we are so attuned to fear about anything that is different or out of the ordinary. But you have that ability, Troy, for a reason. And it's a blessing. It's what I would call, if you were on my show, I would be saying, oh, that's juicy. This is juicy. I love it. I love it. Different experiences. And I just wanted to say there's nothing wrong with religion. Religion has a function, right? It works for some of us as long as it's not about fear, right? But opening ourselves up to different spiritual experiences in the church and out of the church, during meditation, during dream time, just being in a space of allowing our different experiences to come through, right? Not judging it, not being afraid, being open to seeing extraterrestrials. That's my next thing I want to see. I want to see, I have not, but I will. Okay. But just being open, being in a space of non-judgment. But I think that's beautiful. I love that. Like, practice it.
So I'm gonna say two things about what you just said, and I want to bring people into, because I don't know why I feel like everybody has done this. Like, you've never been sitting in your body. I'm gonna explain this to y'all so that way y'all can maybe see. And the room didn't feel like it was getting smaller to you because you were coming out. Like, you never felt that before. Okay.
Troy, so, you got Jay and I shaking our head. No, I'm telling you, it is a beautiful experience that is common, but not everyone has it. And reshape, it's not normalized. You talking about it is opening people up to it right now. And it is an amazing experience and something to return to, because there's something there for you.
Yeah, and that's what I'm telling you. I literally, I won't say that I live there, but I'm there frequently, because it just depending on what I'm pondering. And that's the reason why I'm saying it's funny that y'all have never been sitting back and y'all felt like the room was just literally getting smaller. Y'all never felt that before?
No, that's what she said. Like, that for you need to explore that. Like, you can probably go much further. Like, I've never experienced something like that. I've had spiritual things happen to me that others have not, but in the same instance, like, that's for me. And I think that's the thing that we need to get out of. Like, oh, you're crazy if this doesn't happen to you, or you're crazy if this does happen to you. Like, it's okay to have different experiences.
The crazy part is, I'm crazy because I'm thinking that it happens to everybody, so I minimized what was to be done there. That's number one. But the other part I wanted to touch on was sleep paralysis. And again, this goes to show me, like, this is one of the things that let me know how strong our mind is, number one, right? Because I used to, when I was in college, what you're talking, and I'm only going to say sleep paralysis because I know people see it as different things, right? Mm-hmm. But when I was in college, that happened to me all the time. I think, Jay, we talked about this in the mastermind before, right? Yeah. When I say all the time. Wow. So I went down a wormhole, in a sense, to figure this out. Like, and there was two sides to the story. It's funny enough, you know what I mean? We had the people who, number one, everybody was paralyzed. Nobody could move, but everybody could see. And the beautiful part for me about this and how it ties into the conversation is, no matter what you believe in it, the vision part of it stands true. Mm-hmm. Because some people feel like when they're in sleep paralysis, they've been up for so long that, and their body fell asleep and they didn't recognize that their body fell asleep. Just for anybody that doesn't know. So you're up for so long, you fall asleep, and in the state that you fell asleep in, you can still see everything around you as if it's still is. I mean, as if you're woke. Some people feel like you are actually woke, and then you really have sleep paralysis, and then you see the spirit that is around you. But nonetheless, either way it goes, whether you're asleep for real or you're not asleep for real, the vision is still there. Because if you're asleep, if you can close your eyes right now and everything in front of you will disappear. I promise you it will. Unless you have superb vision or you're able to recognize superb vision. So the simple fact that no matter what happened to me, that I can see my entire room as it was when I was woke or asleep, this shows me how amazing it is. And I'm telling you, I do this practice all the time. I have a ceiling fan in my room right now. And I lay back and I will look at the ceiling fan for, let's say, for 2 minutes straight. And then I would close my eyes and I try to trace the ceiling fan in my mind. And I'm never, ever able to do it perfectly. I always forget in the middle of what I'm doing. But the days when I had sleep paralysis, I had my room down to a T. But go ahead. I just wanted to throw that out there for you.
Wow.
With two things. First, I want to read what Charlie said. I'm living in Ireland, and someone here who I know used to astral project to Belgium every day to check on her mother who had dementia.
That's
wow.
And one thing I want to reiterate too, because I know a number of people who've had sleep paralysis. I've only had it one time, but to those that might have it, like there could be like a fearful mindset to it, like a thing like, oh, I can't move and this. I've heard a number of things that can maybe even minimize that. Like it could be an angel, it could be a spirit guide urging you to astral project, like come out your body. This is the perfect time. Like you can come out now. It's safe. So you can't move this, but your spirit can move. Like it is any number of things. It could be energy being released from you finally that you've held on to for so long, and you get to see it in form that one last time. Like it's so many things. And like Loretta said, we don't have to keep jumping to something scary. Like this is scary. This is happening to me. Like this is every experience really is for you.
Funny. I'm glad that you touched on the scary part, because all the times where I had sleep paralysis, again, I'm just saying that just for the sake of having a place to talk about it. The very first time I was scared. The second time I was scared halfway through. And then I allowed myself to not be scared the second time. And then every single time after that, I was free. But funny enough, and I don't know, Loretta, if you had this experience, because you talked about, I think you did say you couldn't talk either, right?
I couldn't talk. I couldn't move. I could just feel.
So this will be my question for you, because I couldn't talk either. Did you try to talk? And when you tried to talk, what happened?
I tried to talk. I could not talk. So I was like, I can think. I can think. And I was just speaking to it, whatever the energy was. And it didn't necessarily feel like a dark energy. But again, the first response, right, is fear.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I am God. I just was like, you know what? Let me sit in my power in this moment. This is scary. I can't talk. I don't know what this is. I feel it. I could clearly feel it. But I can't communicate with this being and let this being know I am aware of my divinity as well as yours. And so it did whatever it could do. It could have been giving me downloads. I mean, who knows, and then not until it left, though. That's the power of that we can allow fear to have on us. Not until it left did I allow myself to start having right thinking, right? To get out of fear and say, you know what, that could have been, one of my angels. I just wanted to say, because I know our time this has been so amazing, y'all. Y'all gonna have me on again. I want to come on again.
For sure.
Okay, so I wanted to say, I know you gentlemen work out a lot, and I just wanted to invite everyone who's listening to this. We know that our children have this vision, and we do too, right? We all are born with intuition. And so just like when you work out, you're building those muscles. The same is intuition. Like Troy, continue to to play with that, play with your multidimensionality, see how far you can go, know that you are protected, right? And Jay, you have these dynamic dreams and meditations, right? Incredible meditations. Continue to practice that in building this intuition. I used to feel like psychics had something that no one else had. That's not true. We are all one. We are all spiritual beings, and we all have these abilities, and just be continuing to build on that intuition, and it'll grow and grow and grow, just like everything else.
So check this out. Oh yeah, what Charlie said, I'm loving this conversation. Well done, you three. Appreciate it. I want to share a story real quick of something spiritual that happened to me, but it kind of goes along the lines of what you just said, Loretta, of like how we are all one. And to understand this, like I used to be very fear-based as a kid. Like my mom would say, get something out the refrigerator in the basement. I'd be scared. I'd be crying. I don't want to go down there because, you know, I've been fed stories of ghosts and just all these like crazy things, demons, anything, like all of that stuff scared me. And then, you know, like when I did study the Bible, you have a character like Jesus who was like casting demons out and all that stuff. And I always wondered, like, man, how do you do that? So anyway, I was in Harrisburg for a show, and the house that I was staying at, they like they could see spirits, like straight up. And the room that I was in, the woman, she didn't tell me till later, but she was like, the reason I put you in this room is because I knew you would be cool with it. But she said, I can't stay in that room because whenever I do, spirits just come in and out, just always messing with me. And I'm thinking later, like, why would she do this to me? But I didn't know any of this at that time. And so I had told her something interesting that happened one morning when I woke up. It was like I felt something. I felt a presence there that it was like it was trying to get my attention, like almost like it was trying to scare me, but I wasn't on it. I'm all love. Everything is love. Everything is from God. Yes. So what I did was I opened my heart and let it in. Now somebody might be thinking like, you like just let the spirit in you? How crazy are you going? What is that? I really did. And after that, I felt like it neutralized, like it was able to go forth and live or go to the light, do whatever it needed to do. So then afterwards, I talked to the lady about this. I was talking to them both, and she said that around like 3 a.m., she just can never sleep. She said there's a demon between the second and third floor. I was on the second floor. She's on the third floor. She said there's a demon that goes there, and she hates it because she has to pass through every time. And she said, like, when I was there on the trip, she said it's the most peaceful she ever slept, ever, everything. And I say this to say, and I even told her this too, like, we all have that. If we can remember, we come from love, we come from God. Like, there's nothing to be afraid of. That so-called demon is us. Like, it's us that was scared. It was us that was frightened and internalized that and embodied that. And when we remember like all of this stuff, you can cast out demons in a way, but you're not even casting out demons. You're just shining a light on the person and the energy so that it can be light.
JClay did the number one rule that you cannot do in a scary movie.
She threw you under the bus, Jay. But Jay neutralized it. You know what? I love that because that's the power of love, right?
Yeah, real talk. Though.
Usually when we have negative beings around us, we scared and it's like go away, but it's love, right? You can neutralize that energy.
Yo, no, I'm joking though, but still though, like, hey, you ever seen that movie? Let Me In. It's a new movie that came out, and it's literally. They shaking hands with a totem that's a hand, and they tell the spirit that's or whatever's around, let me in. I mean, you can enter something like that. It's pretty much saying you can have my body, and they let them in, and then they either do something good or they do something that they ain't supposed to do. But shouts out to my boy Jay. You know, this is definitely not to scare anybody, but the reason why I want to bring up the movie is because we're talking about how in our subconscious mind, we are beat down based off of things that people, feed us through life. We're indoctrinated into a certain lifestyle. And then, when I talk about on my surface, Troy is not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of any. If you ask me, I'm not afraid of anything. But why, whenever I am astral projecting, which y'all telling me that I'm what I'm doing now, right? Why don't I go further? And that goes to show you what's embedded deep within. And the only way that you can get beyond that is what Loretta said. It's just like every other muscle. You have to practice. Now, what that looks like, only you'll be able to tell, because all of our stories are different. How I go further in astral projection would never be the same as anybody else. But I do love the fact of putting, he said Ghostbusters. I do love the fact of allowing that to simmer within you, that you can practice, that you can get better, that you can work that muscle. And then that way, whenever the opportunity presents itself again, you hopefully trigger that thought for yourself to move beyond. So yeah, now Loretta, you talked about, you being grateful and being able to come back. Now we are grateful, and you got to come back. As far as I know, you're also you're actually a part of the show more often whenever I'm not available or he's not available, but even whenever you want to. So I'm just letting you know from Troy, like, you always welcome here. And I'll say this to everybody that's go ahead, Jay.
What I want to say too, just real quick, because I want to readdress even what Maurice said. Shout out to Maurice. He said, I'm glad it didn't turn into The Exorcist. The reason I brought up how scary I was as a kid, I would never in my life have done something like that or thought that I would do something like that. And it just goes to show that, again, everything responds to our energy. So if I would have been fear-based, I probably would have ran out that house. I probably would have never stayed there again. Like, I have an experience at Troy's house where I almost ran out the house before I got into all this spiritual stuff. So that's another story. But I just wanted to show that, like, if you lead with love, if you believe in your own power, there's nothing that can affect you, and you can affect everything. Yeah, man. Yeah.
So I'm just gonna, I know we're at that point, so I'm just gonna tell everybody, know that you are perfect. Know that you are perfect.
Yes.
And in light of the show, everything that you experience is yours. It's really yours to be able to explore and figure out all the cracks and crevices of it, because it's something else that you can bring to the world. As they said, something that I've experienced, nobody else, other people may have experienced, but they hadn't. And by me expressing it, maybe it's something that they can recognize, or maybe it's something that they can use to help elevate whatever they're doing. But nonetheless, your perfection, your fruit to sow, your being fruitful and multiplying is you doing you to the fullest, experiencing everything fearless and full of love, and remembering that you are perfect. And I encourage everybody to, tune into us every week. Without y'all, we wouldn't be here. We definitely be doing something, but we wouldn't be here. But we are grateful. And Loretta, I am grateful. And Jay, you do what you do, baby.
Before that, Loretta, you got any last words, something you want to
say? I want to say I love this. I love the space that you all provide. I mean, let me just say that real quick. I love it. As young men of color in this spiritual space, it is incredibly empowering to see. And so thank you. I'm so grateful. Yes, I would love to return, y'all. We have so many topics to explore. So yeah, and thank you everyone who tuned in. Thank you so much to Charlie. And I'll kick it over to you, Jay.
Yeah, appreciate y'all. Shout out to Robert Clay, my dad. We are all God having a human experience. Love it. And appreciate everybody that joined us today. If you liked it, loved it, hit that share button. Share it to somebody that can use this information, that can validate their spiritual vision. And just remember, you're a perfect creation made by a perfect creator. So you might as well accept your perfection and enter perfect mode.
Yeah.
If I reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to Perfect Mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm JClay, rapper, the spiritual teacher, with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything.
perfect.